All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to my show, Environmental Coffee House. And today we are going to talk about things that we need to think about for prepping because of this war, this ill thought out war of ridiculousness by this president and his stupid administration and the morons in Israel and the thoughtless people that did not care about citizens. We saw this shit happen during the pandemic, which we all know COVID never went away, right? So, what am I going to talk about today? And good morning, everyone. I'm getting right into it. We're going to talk about preparation, stability, buy time, reducing risk, but we have to stay calm. This is not about panic. We have to talk about energy and supply chains, medications, food, pet food prices. There's a lot to talk about in this. Now, as you know, I am a semi prepper. Sorry, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, which may not be around for too long. We don't know. But I'm going to talk about my coffee, my coffee, and my prepping and what I do. But I want to start the show actually talking about, well, you know, how most people are thinking about war, thinking about the bombs, thinking about the headlines, geopolitics, but no one, and I wasn't even thinking about this, was what's going to hit our life. Medication shortages, and I'll talk about my own personal shit with this. And probably a lot of you who have take medications that who knows that might need cold storage, that's shipping in cold containers like insulin. um but the supply chain breakdown because of the Hormuz, but it's also because of flying. A lot of flights originate in Qatar or whatever you want to call it. And so this is hitting energy, shipping, and all the global production all at once. Now, we can't be panicking. We just need to understand how fragile everything is, everything we depend on. And this was a very poorly thought out attack on Iran. It's ridiculous. Nobody thought. Nobody thought. So even pet food, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that relate to me because I think a lot of you who know me well think about these things. And I'm going to say good morning to you. And Poppy's here. She knows very well. And thank you for moderating, Alex, and hi Singing Way, and hi TR, and hi Troll Slayer. And Lisa's here, just me, all of you, just Soul Life. It's great to see you guys. But we will talk about medications, and it's not prepping, it's how to talk to your doctor about it. But it is prepping. But let me get there, okay? Because I have issues my own self. So I'll tell you what I will probably do and what I have done in the past to make sure that I don't run out. Because what happened to me during the pandemic really sucked. During the height of it, I ran out of a medication that I use for an autoimmune, and I suffered. I suffered. So a lot of this is from my own experience, and a lot of it is just common sense. So we definitely know that as much as we hear in the doomosphere, or who understand the global consequences of the climate crisis and all that goes with it, well, we know that energy is probably the beginning of the end, or an industrialized civilization. I mean, we're seeing what's happening around the world. What are we seeing? We're seeing everything being bulldozed, everything being plowed, everything being destroyed, forests taken down. The United States, this Trump administration is, they're everywhere. There's nothing that's not touched in this country, or that's not going to be touched. Alaska and the indigenous lands. I mean, it's just It's a mess. But we have to think about ourselves for today. For today. Sometimes we can't think about that bigger picture because that bigger picture is really difficult. So about 20% of the global oil flows through that Strait of Hormuz. And so obviously what we've been seeing, those of us that watch, that follow, that want to know what's happening, because some people don't. Some people just want to not understand. There's a lot of people like that. And of course, then there's the people that think it's all great. Those people that said, oh, we got to go to war. We have to get rid of this enemy. We have to get rid of all that shit. The brainwashed, the gullible, the uneducated, the stupid, clueless morons. Sorry. I'm in a mood this morning. I'm going to talk about it. So we've got gas prices spiking, which everybody bitches about. And while I don't think renewables will solve the problem, I sure like certain things about them. And we may not be in such a big mess if we had 25 years ago, 30 years ago, even 40 years ago, made the changes that the scientists were saying. Hey, listen, guys, this is happening. Even Exxon knew. We all know that. Exxon knew. But that's what's happening. And gas prices, heating, electricity, all this is going up. And everything being transported will be more expensive. It's getting more expensive. We're seeing it. My brother sent a picture of gas where he lives. It was almost $4.50 a gallon. So when energy gets disrupted, the way we live our lives, everything else will follow suit and get disrupted. So what I'm going to start with is medications, because this is something that it really hit me. And I started to think about what happened during the pandemic and how I take a medicine called Plaquenil. It's called hydrochloroquine. And during that time, first of all, there was a rush on it and there was a paranoia on it and there was a hysteria on it that said that, oh, that's a drug that will be for COVID, when it was statistically, scientifically proven through all the studies it wasn't. I lost that medication because of that, and because during the pandemic of all the shutdowns, there was the same thing, just not wartime. So we couldn't get things. And a lot of ingredients and medications come from India and China. It's still happening. No matter what Donald Trump said about, oh, we're going to make everything in the United States. That's a bunch of bullshit, because it's not happening. All right. We're not making everything in the United States. So India is a big one. It really is. And these shipping routes for all of this stuff are totally unstable now. And the effects, what are we saying? The ports, fuel costs, insurance. No, think about the insurance for the cargo ships. All the other countries don't want to help the United States. They don't want to help Donald Trump. They're not happy with Donald Trump. They're not happy with the war that he started without thinking about anything. So the next is the cold chain shipping. And these medications have to stay in strict temperature ranges. Insulin, biologics, even heart medicines, some heart medicines. And if that's disrupted, which we're going to see, it's going to happen. It's just, how can it not happen? Medications spoil. That's a lot of stuff to go bad. They spoil, they get delayed, and then your pharmacy runs out. It's not just about making the drug. It's about keeping it alive from the factory to you. And I talked about the Plaquenil. But you know what? I'm also a pain patient, and I take a pain medicine. So I'm looking to say, oh, wow, what's going to happen if I don't get to have pain reduction, pain release, from that, or I lose my medicine. It's already hard enough to have it as it is. Could I even do this show? Will I be able to grow my victory garden in chronic pain every minute of my life? But it's not about me. Things that affect me, I want to translate to you because a lot of you, we all have a lot of things that are happening to us that are in common. Think about this one. A lot of people in the United States, at least, are on Synthroid. Their thyroids are shot for whatever environmental reason, which I do believe a lot of it is environmental toxins, microplastics, PFAS, all that shit. The heart medications, what is that from? The shit food system in the United States. There's other countries that don't have the absolutely awful food systems that make heart medications an absolute necessity. So when I'm talking about prepping, you have to talk to your doctor. You have to see how early you can refill. I'm going to call 2 doctors, but you see, because one of mine is one of those prescriptions that is controlled by the DEA, I might be shit out of luck if there are shortages. Now, if possible, you talk to your doctor, say, okay, we see what's happening. Can we go to a 60 to 90 day supply? A lot of medications you can, but for a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country, the co-pays are very cost prohibitive. There's a lot of problems. And I understand that because 60 to 90 day supplies, while they say the co-pays are cheaper, it's still a lot of money for a lot of people who may not be able to do that, even with Trump RX, which is just like the one that's called Good RX. It's a bunch of bullshit, like everything else this fucker does. But we have to think about these. You got to talk to your doctor about alternatives. Always, storing properly and track what you use. But if you depend on medication, you really are you're tied to the global stability. You're tied to this whole thing. And as much as we want to not be on medicine, as much as I don't want to be on medication, it's hard not to be. And I'm not on a gazillion things. I'm on 2 medications. But those 2 medications affect my quality of life. So my quality of life, your quality of life. That's why I did this show. Because I thought about this and I started realizing, oh my gosh, even not a good time to get cancer. The biologics could be affected. I've got articles to show you that I pulled up. I've got a couple of videos. But we really do have to think. I mean, it's not just about medication, but let me start out with the first little video I'll set up because it's I think it's good to see a couple of videos and get ourselves ready.
In the Middle East, the lockdown of the Strait of Hormuz is impacting more than just oil. As Scripps News Group's chief Washington correspondent Joe St. George reports, fertilizer and helium shortages could soon impact the price of food and even the decorative balloons at your next party.
The cost of gasoline may be getting a lot of the attention, but the Strait of Hormuz impacts other industries too. Doctors are warning about the possibility of generic drugs being in short supply soon. Farmers are concerned about the cost of fertilizer, which in turn could change food prices.
Your daughter might struggle to get helium at her birthday party.
But for Phil Kornbluth, his worry is helium. Yes, the gas that is used in party balloons. Kornbluth analyzes the helium market and says while much attention has been paid to oil facilities being hit by Iranians in the Gulf, Kornbluth says many helium-producing locations are nearby those sites and damaged themselves. Even if the war would end tomorrow, helium impacts are coming.
Party balloons are about 10% of the market. The physical shortage hasn't happened yet. Physical shortage will happen in a few weeks.
Kornbluth says while party balloons may be the first thing you think of when you think of helium, the gas is used in operating MRI machines at hospitals, computer chip manufacturers, need the gas too. And if there is a shortage, those sectors would be prioritized.
They cannot make computer chips without helium.
Analysts say there are solutions to the possible helium crisis outside of the Middle East, one option being Russia's helium facilities. As far as any future party planning goes, Kornbluth says you might want to buy your helium now.
There's going to be price increases.
Joe St. George, Scripps News Group, Washington.
All right, so we're really worried about the party balloons. No, but what we are thinking about are the medications. They are global and they are fragile. They are global and fragile. And I don't want you to panic. I want you to be ready. I want you to be prepared. You know, this caught us off guard. I think a lot of us knew that Trump would do something stupid like this. Yet I don't think that we were ready for this. Listen, I didn't start thinking about this medication thing until just the other day. And I'm like, I got to do a show on this. I want to talk about this. It is really, really important for all of you. Preparation, stability, buy time, reduce the risk. Let's stay calm. Staying calm is the biggest thing. So medications, global, fragile, energy. It's basically everything in this society we live in. We want to think it's not. We want to say, oh, we're off grid. Oh, it doesn't matter. We are all part of the system. We're all part of that system. So med prep, talk to the doctor, 60 to 90 days, see what happens. See how you can do it. Because the from what I've read in the articles I have, the medical community is already understanding that this is a possibility to happen. And one of the next things we're going to go talk about, besides the supply chain, I mean, it's not just medicine, it's all of it. Like I said, raw materials, a lot of things that put together, even compounding pharmacies in the United States don't have everything to make your medicines. And they get shipped. Everything in this country is still shipped. All of that make everything in the United States is bullshit. And it hasn't happened. And now with all of the Iran hitting all of the different Gulf Coast countries, that their energy supplies, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So we'll see those oil price spikes, shipping costs surge. I mean, we know this, it's like ridiculous, but it's happening right in front of our eyes. And remember, during COVID, people went and stocked up. Remember the whole toilet paper run? Well, listen, this time, get some toilet paper. But we have to not panic. There can't be a run on things. This has to be a planning thing. We're, 3 weeks into this thing? We're ahead of the game. We are ahead of the game. And that's why I'm doing this. But that's why I started with medicine, because that is medicine. And you know what I really care about? Medicine and cat food. I mean, we have pets. A lot of us have pets, right? So we're going to look at cat food also. And think about this too. Household goods, like I just talked about, pet food and toilet paper, replacement parts for all kinds of things around your place. Little electronics. We live with our electronics. And then basic pharmacy items, Band-Aids, all the prepping shit. There's a lot of prepper channels. Some of you are into them. I'm into a few of them, but there's a lot of people that can help you along the way. There's a lot out there. I'm just giving you a primer here. Basic pharmacy items always have your Band-Aids, your alcohol, your hydrogen peroxide, witch hazel, even, topical antibiotics. Now that's going to be another thing. What is it? Doxycycline and amoxicillin could be short. I don't know what your doctors are like, but you may ask them, listen, can I have a a prescription for that, a lot of doctors don't like to do it because of the antibiotic abuse that happened that is going to render them ineffective anyway. Unfortunately, that was a problem. People were popping antibiotics like they were aspirin and not taking the full courses, so we've kind of destroyed our bodies for that. Not all of it. Not all of us. But we built a world where that only works when everything works. And so, as we see, everything is being stressed out all at once. All at once. So let's talk a little bit about food. Or do I want to talk about energy? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm talking about, the backup batteries. Maybe we'll talk about the backup batteries. Let me pull up my notes because I want to, let me talk about this. Okay, here we go. I have, among other things, if you can't afford anything big like backup batteries, you don't need to back up your entire house. You need to back up the things that you'll need, your phone, communication, because this is a war. Right now, things are not off. But, something like this. Here's a battery. This is a battery. This can plug in. You can keep a battery like this charged so that you can plug in essentials. I actually don't know if it would do like a CPAP machine, but there are things that people need. And so this is my small one. I'm a luckier person, or more, I plan, because I've been a prepper for so long. Let me put this down so it doesn't fall. Because I've been a prepper for so long, I have backup batteries for systems, and I have solar panels that I can put outside, but I don't have solar panels for the house. But it's all within what you can afford. Now, I made the outlays, and it's going to be really hard for me, particularly, to get anything because I can't afford jack shit right now. But I don't think I'm much different than the majority of Americans. We're all living, well, we've lived beyond our means, or we are living beyond our means, or we can't afford. I don't know about Canadians. I see Linda's here from Canada. And no, I'm not doing an infomercial. I'm just showing you what you can get to be prepared. I think it's really important to think about these things. Really to think about power basics like portable solar panels. You can do a lot of these things very, very inexpensively if you plan. Now, right now, we're still in that where we have a little time before some of the shocks are felt. Different things I've read say, okay, it could be 6 months from now, even if this bullshit war is done, which I don't know. It seems like we're going to be in a forever war unless Iran totally friggin', they've been planning for a long time. So who knows? We really don't know. First of all, the mainstream media isn't going to tell us the truth. It's very hard. There's a lot of AI bullshit out there. I found 2 channels. Same guy, same looking guy, right? All this spewing all this shit. 2 different channel names. Same exact thing. AI slop. So, and people, I'm a real person here. I get shit for views, give you good information, and this fucking channel got 200,000 plus views, and it's AI slop. And I reported it. And I found that last night when I was doing the prep for this. Well, I started prepping 2 days ago when I realized, holy shit, medication. But this government, they are not looking at any of this through a public health lens. Absolutely not. USA, Israel, they don't care. They're looking at national security threats, or what they're telling us they thought were national security threats. In my opinion, the United States and Israel are national security threats. And then they're looking at deterrent strategies. They're looking at, okay, the regional power balance. For example, right now, CPAC, run by Matt Schlapp, who is another kind of pervert, another hypocrite. They're in Hungary. Hungary is a fascist country. They're what's the power balance going to be? Why Yair Netanyahu is speaking at CPAC in Hungary from Israel. He's from Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu's son. So you tell me, why the fuck is he there? Why is he speaking in a fascist authoritarian country? Ooh, why? Maybe because Israel is not a democracy and they're run by right-wing lunatics. You know, I love the way this administration likes to call these other country lunatics when the lunatic is right in our house. So the power balance is changing. And of course, all this domestic crap. And they're not thinking. They did not think whatsoever about global pharmaceutical supply chains because Donald Trump thought that they would go right in, just like Venezuela. It would be over in 5 minutes because, number one, he doesn't listen to his intelligence, if you want to call them that. Anybody see Tulsi Gabbard? Boy, did she skirt the issue. And then her guy quit right under. Joe, I did the show on him. He quit. He said, hey, we're doing this shit for Israel, which there's a lot of nuance there because I don't believe Israel is running us. We run Israel because we're just as horrible. We are all looking for power, and the more power we have in the Middle East, the better it is. The oligarchs like it. Okay? That's my opinion. A lot of people want to say that, but I'm not quite there. We use them just as much as they use us. But nobody thought about people. They didn't think about rural areas too. At all. They never think about us. A lot of people in rural areas are on insulin because the food system's out here. If you're not a farmer's market growing your own food kind of person, the availability for food in rural areas could be quite shitty. A lot of Dollar Generals, a lot of garbage on the shelves. So that's insulin availability. And then, as I talked about earlier, the autoimmune drugs again. And I'll repeat this. The medication system is fragile. And these oligarchs, even if they take medicines, they don't understand it. They don't care. They learned nothing from the pandemic. Everything is a highly optimized, tightly coupled system with a lot of parts. All these active ingredients, they're manufactured all over the world. And then when you're finished making these drugs, they're in different countries. So, I'm just repeating what I said because it's very important to understand these things. And then to communicate to others that don't understand it. To tell your friends or people you care about that they need to make sure that they have access to their medications. See, a lot of these policy people, these policy wonks, they think that, they don't grasp it. They don't understand the markets may not adapt to this. Oh, we'll prioritize critical goods. Well, what are critical goods? Energy, animal feed, humans, pets are always last. But we'll see. We'll see, because energy, these people, these war hawks, oh man, do they underestimate. And they did this time. They sure as shit did this time. Overconfident people that really don't care. I mean, they're building their bunkers. I had a video I was going to show, but I decided not to. on nuclear fallout. I said, nah, we already have enough insult to injury here. So we know that these leaders, all they care about are their short-term goals. And they say they're looking at long-term goals, but they're really not. So here we are. All this crap is going to spread. It's not just the United States. I mean, it's going to spread across millions of people globally. And this war of choice was bullshit. You know, inside they think, okay, they think, all right, preactive, and it's a strategic necessity, and it's a response to the intelligence assessments that I don't believe Donald Trump ever sees. So they think the risk of not acting is greater than the cascading risks we're seeing now. Absolutely. They're siloed in their thinking. It's been like that forever. It's been like that forever. So let's go to the next video I have. And okay, hang on. Let's go to the next one.
A prolonged Iran war risks an unprecedented crisis in global energy supplies, and that kind of shock could ripple through every major economy, raising costs for households and businesses. Dmitry Zhdanikov is Reuters energy and commodities editor.
We're already in the energy shock. I mean, to put it simple, the world has lost around a quarter of oil that it was getting daily before the war started. So when a quarter of something is not available, I mean, inevitably people will be scrambling to buy more and more oil and products for higher prices. So the shock is already very big.
But some countries are more exposed than others and less able to cushion the blow. In Europe, a fresh energy shock revives painful memories of the surge that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Germany's industry-heavy economy has a lot to lose. Its manufacturing sector has only just stopped contracting for the first time since 2022. And as a major exporter, it's vulnerable to any global downturn. Italy also has a big manufacturing base, and oil and gas account for one of the highest shares of primary energy consumption in Europe, making it sensitive to price spikes. Britain's electricity system relies more on gas-fired power than other major European economies, and gas prices, rising faster than oil since the start of the war, often set its electricity costs. Japan is firmly in the firing line. It sources around 95% of its oil from the Middle East, and nearly 90% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. A weak yen is already lifting import costs, feeding through to food and daily necessities. Among emerging heavyweights, the Gulf faces a direct hit. Some forecasters now expect contraction this year, reversing pre-war growth hopes. Higher oil and gas prices are no help if the effective closure of Hormuz prevents exports, especially for Kuwait, Qatar and Bahrain. India is another exposed giant. It imports about 90% of its crude and nearly half of its liquefied petroleum gas, with roughly half of its oil and an even larger share of its LPG coming through Hormuz. Economists are trimming growth forecasts, and the rupee has fallen to a record low. Turkey, which borders Iran, is bracing for potential refugee inflows and more geopolitical uncertainty. Economically, its central bank has paused interest rate cuts again and has sold as much as $23 billion in reserves to bolster the lira. Sri Lanka has made every Wednesday a public holiday for state sector workers to cap energy costs. Schools, universities and public institutions are shutting. Non-essential public transport is suspended, and a national fuel pass now restricts fuel purchases. Pakistan, which was on the brink 2 years ago, has raised petrol prices and closed schools for 2 weeks. Government departments have had fuel allowances halved and are barred from buying new air conditioners. Reza Bakir is Global Head of Sovereign Advisory Services at Alvarez and Massel. He says it's a substantial economic shock to many emerging markets.
Countries that have large petroleum imports For example, countries like Pakistan, Egypt have had petroleum import bills last year of more than $10 billion each. Second, countries that have weak external balances, such as they have current account deficits or they don't have very high levels of foreign exchange reserves that can buffer these kinds of shocks.
Energy choke points and rising prices are testing economies worldwide. The longer the conflict persists, the more acute the pressure becomes.
So I thought that those two that I showed, I thought they were important to show. So I want to move on to pets. We talked about battery stations, we've talked about portable solar panels. If you can afford them, not everybody is going to be. I understand that. I'm just telling you the things that are essential. Stop spending money. I have because I don't have any. But I mean, seriously, these are the things that we should have been doing years ago. And maybe a lot of us have, maybe we haven't. It's not too late to start at all. But I want to talk about pet food because I am a rescue and the rescues are going to get hurt if the pet food gets messed up. And think about it, because it's farming, it's trucking, it's packaging, it's refrigeration, and pet food is very energy dependent because of the manufacturing and the transport. And then already we're seeing the fertilizer problems, so crop shortages and feed shortages. 30% of the fertilizer trade moves through the Hormuz, and the prices are already jumping 30 to 150%. That's from Reuters. So pet food, corn, soy, wheat, and animal feed inputs. That's the basic shitty cat food. There are a lot of designer cat food companies that are relying on fishing stock, and they use animals. Some use animal byproducts and some go right for the good stuff. And like, my cats eat good food, but I have 6 months of cat food at all times because that's me. I started, I'm always doing that. That's how I do it. But because I did it, I wasn't so able to do it either. Trust me. I've been putting myself into a little debt because of this, because of these cats, because of my lifestyle, because of being a prepper. And I think, did you see the video I made this year about now is the time I prep for? Because I used a lot of my canned shit. That's why I'm talking about a victory garden. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So you got to think about it. There's going to be pet foods delays. They'll be uneven probably, but we're going to see. It's going to be a lot of money. They call it petflation, and that's right from the pet food industry. And certain brands or flavors, your cats aren't going to get their designer shit, or your dogs. And then my neighbor, she's got horses, but at least locally, everybody helps each other here. It's a farming community with the hay, so that's a local thing, and I'm really happy that I live here. And I'm thinking about having someone come with a tractor and do my whole place and try to get her the hay for her horses before the season. But what'll happen for the pets is they'll substitute ingredients, and there'll be shitty ingredients in there, but at least they'll be able to eat. But we have to be careful, because canned food, which I do like to feed my cats in the morning because it's very good for them, the aluminum that makes the cans is now in a shortage, or will be. Aluminum, unless you buy plastic, which sucks all around. So there's going to be some real shortages. And that's another thing. We just have to watch that we don't panic. That's why I'm here, so we don't panic. So the metals, they're heavier to transport, the cat food in the cans. And then there's the cold chain. Some things, but these are the designer pet foods. Forget about them. If you're buying pet food from a refrigerator in the grocery store, forget it. or buy it and freeze it or whatever you have to do, because there's a lot of protein competition too. Your pet food is competing with human food and livestock feed markets. That's all there is to it. And I know that pets in the United States particularly, because I can't talk for other countries. I don't live there. People are careless. That's why I have a rescue here. That's why I have 7 cats. People are careless, thoughtless, don't care. And in other countries, I'm watching pets, they're getting bombed in these cities. That's a whole other show. But we'll see what happens with this. Just make sure you're taking care of your pets, because it's considered a downstream luxury in a stress system like what we're starting to see. There you go. I would say for your pets, a 2 to 6 week minimum ahead. Don't wait to get to the dollar store to buy that bag that's not going to be there. Don't do that. And rotate the food if you have to, because you're going to, I have cats, they got used to, over the time, I got them used to all different kinds of cat food just for this kind of event. Don't hoard it. Just be prepared. And again, they should be able, all of your pets should be able to digest 2 or 3 at least different options. And I know that the dry food is a longer shelf life, easier to store and all that. Just have to make sure the water is there. And that's why I give my cats canned food, because I just had one that had a 2-month urinary tract infection. And I lost my vet. He died shockingly, just a shock. But, anyway, just watch the prices are going to go up. So, what else is good for pets too? You buy rice. I have bags of rice stashed and some protein combos if you can get it. I went to the farmer's market yesterday, and the local farmer's market had a lot of stuff already. Proteins. I always ask people for junk fish when they go fishing. Don't throw them back. If you're going to fish, bring me the stuff you're throwing back. I'll use it for the cats. So, and always have your vet on speed dial, even though I have to find a new one. I mean, it's not funny, but anyway. All right. So I've talked about a lot of things I wanted to cover. I've talked about medication. I've talked about energy. I've talked about price. I've talked about power basics, just starting small. Where did the rice come from? It's always a supply issue, obviously. Ta-da! Yeah. Battery station, portable solar panels if you can. Protect your essentials. That's what the battery's for. And then build a buffer, 2 or 3 months. Yeah. In case we need to restore to also eating pet food. God. I love you guys. All right, let's look at the articles that I pulled up. For the rest of the show, we'll look at some of these articles. And all right, here we go. Business Insider, I started with. As I did my research, I started with this one. They were saying it's not just oil, three critical supply chains being upended by the war. And here they show the commercial vessels. And you see my little video was on the other screen that I made that went round around. Yeah. Oil is not the only supply chain that's being disrupted. Shocks to commodities produced and transported. I've said it. Helium, pharmaceutical, drugs, and fertilizer. So I got a lot of my information from some of these articles. But as we know, we're seeing what's happening. So that was Business Insider. Then there's a food publication, Iran Crisis Food Volume Recovery. in jeopardy from new inflation wave. If the Iran conflict continues for any length of time, food manufacturers will face a pricing dilemma: raise or absorb. What happens in the United States? They raise the prices, they never absorb them, because everybody wants to make a buck. No matter how screwed up things get, everybody wants to make a buck. And this is a marine traffic map, and it shows ship movements in the Strait of Hormuz pictured through a magnifying glass as commercial vessel traffic through the key oil shipping lane dropped sharply amid escalating conflict involving Iran. And this was from March 15th, so it might even be worse. Although Iran is now saying they're going to charge people that want to go. They'll charge you directly. And other countries, as angry as they are at the U.S., could be taking them up on this, because everybody wants to take care of their own. And they sure as shit don't want to be part of this war, because it wasn't their war. This is not Europe's war. But at least they say that, right? So it's a worse time for packaged food companies, which are still rebuilding volumes and margins from the pricing waves that have hit consumers hard and in some cases hurt brand reputation too. No one has a crystal ball to pinpoint how long the U.S.-Israel-led war with Iran is likely to last. But as we near the end of the third week of the conflict, and the continued blockage of the key Strait of Hormuz oil shipping route, concern is building over the wider implications and risks in short and longer term. In the meantime, energy-linked inflation concerns are intensifying. Don't even listen to a thing that Scott Bessent said, because that guy, I think he's wrong on everything. Strategic game plan. I made a video about that. It appears the world could be in for a longer haul than the 4 to 5 weeks President Trump had initially envisioned. But the lack of support from major U.S. allies in Europe could very well bring an end to the hostilities closer. All right, wait a minute. Wait, do I have the laughing emoji? I don't know. Where's my laugh? Where is my laugh? They must be, well, here. That's how I feel about that. Uncertainty is likely to ensue, whatever the resolution to the war may be, particularly given Iran's retaliatory attacks on its Middle East neighbors. These attacks and the prospects of a drawn-out conflict escalated this week when Israel bombed the South Pars gas field, the world's largest, shared between Iran and Qatar, or whatever. Brent crude spiked above 116 a barrel. That was last Thursday, the 19th of March, as Tehran launched a tit-for-tat response on Gulf oil refineries. So this is showing you, this is an infographic. I hope it's big enough, because I don't think I can make it bigger on this one. Titled, "One of the World's Largest Natural Gas Fields, South Pars, created in Ankara, Turkey." So here we see there's South Pars. And of course, the United States said that they attacked Karg. Antonio and I did a show on what was the reaction. Natural world, we've done 4 shows on all of this already. The natural world, the animals that live on Karg. There's 8,000 people that live on that island. And supposedly the United States Marines are on their way. Okay. So if the United States Marines are on their way, how naive and stupid are we to think that Iran has not planned for this and is waiting with some kind of COG surprise, the Keg Island surprise? I am so nervous for all of them, no matter what their ships' capabilities are. He's insane if he thinks that our military is up for the terrain of Iran. If they want to let them off at the beach or they want to let them off at Keg Island, it's insane. Diplomacy. Diplomacy should have been the way to deal after October 7th. Diplomacy should have been the way to deal in 1947. I will be doing a separate show on that. All right. So we see the South Pars. So for food, the implications are perhaps less severe than when Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, at least for now. Then prices of major imports exported from Ukraine, which is like a breadbasket of Europe, really, such as wheat, sunflower oil, and fertilizer, spiked, compounding an inflationary trend across the supply chain that some manufacturers and global monetary policymakers are still grappling with today. And of course, consumers had to stomach the burden too, in many cases turning to lower priced private label and discounters. Fertilizer blow, unlike Ukraine, the Middle East is a net food importer. So that might soften the potential adverse impacts on exporters to the region somewhat, albeit alternative transport routes may have to be utilized. However, the Middle East is a major supplier of fertilizer. We've talked about that. According to Stefano Di Napoli, founder and director at consultancy Consumer Products Growth Strategy, it accounts for around 40% of the world's supply. If the war ends up being a protracted conflict, what do you guys think? Is this war going to be a protracted conflict? Remember, Donald Trump doesn't know how to get out of Iran, but he sure knew how to get out of Vietnam. Fertilizer stocks could be depleted, putting pressure on farmers and agricultural crops, raising the risk of higher prices of fresh goods on supermarket shelves. It is fortuitous. The Western world is entering spring with the summer months just around the corner. So the major risk is oil and gas to the food industry, according to this article. And I'm not going to go any further because we've talked about the impact on agriculture, the grain effect. Globally traded commodity grain prices are also vulnerable to higher costs for fertilizer, fuel, and transportation. It is a clusterfuck. Richard Wyborn, a partner at consultancy Food Strategy Associates, said the cost of food packaging, especially plastics, is likely to increase. Plastics. They're killing us. While energy-intensive food sectors like processing of certain raw materials such as sugar and oils, along with bakery, could be more exposed to higher costs. Now, Florida does produce a lot of sugar, but not a lot. I mean, not enough for all the crap that sugar goes into in this country. I don't eat sugar. Nope. Gives me a headache. I don't eat anything with sugar in it. Last time I did, I had some cookies when watching the Super Bowl with my daughter, I had a headache that was just absolutely, I mean, she made gluten-free. They were very good, but I had a headache that lasted days. Sugar is an enemy for me. It just gives me a headache. But he says, it feels like people are prepared to do whatever it takes to keep a lid on inflation. People, a lid on energy prices, having seen how negative impact, it could be on the economy, on individuals, on prospects. Well, what is Donald Trump doing? He's letting the sanctions off of Iran, off of Russia. Well, this is the new world order they want. We're in war. We're in a war with Iran, but we're letting the sanctions off so they can sell their oil. We are in opposite world. So food manufacturers have not yet come out in droves, as of the writing of this article, to express concerns over the conflict, and those that have voiced any opinion are of the assumption that the war will be short-lived with an element of if over the long term. I don't know. Just a heightened state of awareness, which is what I'm bringing you, really. I'm bringing you a heightened state of awareness out of my own experience. I started prepping 10 years ago here, but I think during the pandemic is when I really realized I have to make sure that I have stuff here. Not so some marauding group of hoarders or coming to rape and pillage the fucking area. You know what I'm talking about. I don't think like that. Okay. So this person, these Alex partners, they put together a so-called disruption index based on executive discussions across industries around the world. There were still levels of disquiet at that last call in January, but that's January. So the Middle East is going to amplify the fragile segment, agreeing with the hypothesis that frozen, chilled, and baked goods might be more susceptible to energy shocks. And the pricing. This is a good article, though, for reference. If it'll all be in the show notes, like I always do. And then I found the Times of India, because the Times of India makes so much. They were all talking about rising crude prices during this because of the war. It's the side effect on pricing of raw materials for the entire range of drugs, starting from paracetamol, and which is the common fever drug, to complex formulations. Petroleum-based solvents used for making a whole gamut of pharmaceutical products have become costly. Even the prices of plastic packaging material, again, a petroleum product, because we can't live without petroleum. You end petroleum tomorrow, everybody collapses. I'm sorry, that's the reality of it. As much as we want to get off fossil fuels and we hate the fossil fuel industry, everything collapses. Don't be naive. So, but this article was talking about the pharmaceuticals, which was how I started on this. The prices. Let's see, a senior official of the pharma majors said there are chances that even production may take a hit due to the shortage of certain petroleum-based solvents. Nagpur has a number of units that supply material like active pharma ingredients, which I talked about earlier, the APIs, or excipients to major pharma companies. So there you go. The hike in production has not been passed on to consumers yet, as most of the drugs are still available. They are, but we're ready, right? That's why I'm doing this show. We're ready. We're going to be ready. What are we going to do? We're going to talk to our doctors. We're going to look at what we have in our medicine cabinets. We're going to make sure we have the essentials. Even shit for poison ivy. Everything. You have to look at what you need. And I guess the dollar store is good for some of that stuff, because a lot of us can't afford to go out and get all those things we need. But that's where community could come in. What's going on where you live? If you live in a big city, are there food pantries? Are there people that get together in groups to talk about things like this? Block clubs. Look at what's available. Look at what's out there. Yesterday, I was at the farmer's market. I said that earlier. I live in that kind of rural community. All right, let's look. And there's another one, the same thing. This was CNBC. Hormuz standoff puts supply of America's generic drugs at risk. It's basically just repeating. I just really wanted to demonstrate to you that there are articles out there, and I did not know until I started thinking about what happened to me during the COVID time with my 2 medications, especially Plaquenil, which does help me with my autoimmune that causes terrible osteoarthritis, almost like rheumatoid arthritis pain. I don't want to lose that one, but I know if I do, I have to adapt. It's just the way it is. It's called adaptation. So the bone pain comes back and I learn how to work around it. Same as you guys. No panic, just understanding. So this guy, this Scott Bessent, I don't even want to talk about him. I can't stand him. I really don't think he has the finger on anything but the rich, the wealthy. I don't think he could give a shit about us. And I wanted to show you this. I'm not going to play this. This was Business Today. And you see, it was a video in India, and see how they're talking, but they're not talking in English. But the ongoing tensions involving Iran, Israel, and the United States are now beginning to impact India's pharmaceutical supply chain, raising concerns over a potential rise in medicine prices. And so there was a report in there. This will be in, I mean, 101 people watched it, but I found it. I didn't understand it, but they're talking about the same things. Azithromycin, metformin, amoxicillin, paracetamol, it's for infections, chronic conditions. Pharma organizations have already alerted the government, flagging concerns about how raw material supply constraints. So what do we say? Don't get sick. I mean, it's how do you do that? How do you do that? All right. Well, we're going to move to the Victory Garden. I want to talk about the garden, but first, before we talk about that, I want to go back to me. I want to see what you guys are doing. We're at an hour. And I want to talk about the kinds of things to put in to the Victory Gardens if you have them, whether they are pots on your deck in a city like my daughter does, whether they're a big garden like I have, whether you're starting. This is really, really important stuff, especially what you choose to grow this year. Okay. We'll go back and we're going to look, we'll look at that article about the Victory Garden. And I think this is important. We need energy dense crops. Fuck the designer bullshit this year. Forget it. Grow what is essential to get you through. The Victory Garden movement gained popularity in World War I and World War II, when American and Canadian citizens were encouraged to grow as many of their own fresh vegetables as possible. So more and more people are saying, okay, our food supply chains, they're not enough. We can't always count on the grocery stores. Although right now, you go into a big grocery store, they're still stocked. Where's that food coming from? You must understand and you must look. When you go to the grocery store, look at where those vegetables are coming from. Who knows how long? I mean, if things are coming up through Mexico to the United States and Canada or South America, maybe it won't be as affected as dramatically, but but there's still going to be the transportation costs. Look where your food comes from. And if you can't grow a garden, buy your food. You can buy a what's it called? It vacuum seals your vegetables. So you can buy a vacuum sealer for $20. I saw one yesterday at Ollie's. You get the bags, and if you're not a sophisticated canner like I am, I can things. I prep everything. You can get a vacuum sealer for $20. Get the nutrient dense vegetables, and you can vacuum seal them and stick them in your freezer. Hopefully power grid doesn't go down, but you still can do that. Okay. That's a way that you can do that if you can't grow food. Get your vegetables, get a $20 vacuum sealer, and then do that. I mean, that's one of my suggestions. Not everybody has a canning station like I have. Not everybody has their, I have to use propane for that. Not everybody has propane canisters. Not everybody can do what I do. However, from years of doing this, I can help you with the simple things that you can do. So, decades of being spoiled for choice and having an abundance of all this stuff, it could be risky when we're 100% dependent on outside sources. That's why I'm saying go to the store now, see where it's coming from, get your vegetables, go to Ollie's or whatever discount store, buy a $20 vacuum sealer, get some shit prepped and in the freezer. Even for the summer, I went through so much of my vegetables and my canned stuff now this winter because I had to. I had financial issues. I'm not alone. But I ate a lot of my shit up. I have to start all over again. What a lousy time, too. I just thought of this. We're in a freaking war, and now I have to start all over again. But I'm going to have a Victory Garden. So here we go. We're going to talk about this. Let's see. What are the best crops to grow? What does your family like to eat? What do you like to eat? First, look at what are your favorite vegetables that you eat regularly. But I'm looking at nutrient dense. Yesterday, my friend Debbie and I were talking about this. Debbie is a master gardener. We went to the farmer's market. It was her birthday. You know, I like to try to keep my carbs down, but one of the most important things we talked about was potatoes, believe it or not. Somebody said that in the chat, and I'm going to grow potatoes, and I'm not going to buy the grocery store potatoes to put in my ground. I have one of my beds just grows potatoes every year anyway, but I'm going to grow potatoes this year. So let's see here. You know, the novelty crops are fun to try. What did I say? But they are not the best choices now. They're not going to be. Got to focus on vegetables. A bigger harvest, grown densely, and can be vertically grown. I already plan. I bought a whole bunch of closet, you put them up to hang your clothes on, but I put them vertically, and I grow lots of beans on them. Just stick them in the ground, get them in, and grow your shit vertically if you have a garden. But you can. There's so much out there on the market. Just get a few pots and put them on your deck. You can get a grow light. Everything is pretty cheap if you want to do it. You can buy a grow light very inexpensively. I hate to say use Amazon. I hate Amazon. But the one thing about Amazon, I hate Jeff Bezos. I don't like anything. But the one thing about Amazon is that there are a lot of smaller companies that sell through Amazon and the employees. You know, so if you look at Amazon, and I'm not telling you to use it, but if you look at Amazon, you think about the person who you're buying from Amazon, but you might be paying somebody's salary. You might be helping them feed their family, not necessarily just Jeff Bezos. You might be helping some small business that uses Amazon because you have to. And yeah, don't use it if you hate it. But I'm telling you, go around to the stores, the local stores, the discount stores, look for a cheap grow light. One year, one of our amazing people sent me hydroponic gardens. I had 4 of them. They were crappy, but some of them broke. I still have one left. You can get one of those. Also, hydroponics. Grow your lettuce. You can do that. But you want to grow dense. You want to grow versatile and crops you can store. You can do that vacuum sealing or that you can. Because you're going to need these, especially next winter, because we won't know. We will not know what shit's going to hit the fan. And everybody that follows this channel will know what to do. I'm going to make sure, because I like to do gardening videos, and Debbie and I were talking about doing that. I mean, she's a master gardener. I have that resource. She's my best friend here. You know, it was her birthday yesterday, so that was great. So, see, during the world wars, think about that. Are we in a world war now? I mean, Europe doesn't want to get in. Nobody wants to help the United States, but they're dragging the whole goddamn world in it. Yeah, exactly. Wait, where is Darlene? Oh, shit, that was such a good... Yeah, Amazon is like big oil. We need it, but it's killing us. Exactly. Anytime, and I haven't gotten stuff in a while. I did buy a book, but I always think about that person that's delivering it, and that even that one book or whatever is helping them, even though it sucks. I rationalized it. I didn't go to the bookstore. I didn't spend the gas money. Okay. So during the wars, citizens were encouraged to convert their own backyard as well as empty spaces and vacant lots around their communities into victory gardens. Every city should be doing this with vacant lots. The biggest one near me is Buffalo. Buffalo has vacant lots all over the east side. They have started to do it. It's amazing. I think I've talked about that on a show. So here's the 10 best crops for a victory garden. It's not definitive according to this article in House and Homestead, but I think they're pretty good. potatoes. They are a staple, and they have been a survival crop for millions, for millennia. It's calorie dense, it's carbohydrate rich root crop. Now, I don't love carbs for me, but I am going to grow them because it has fiber, potassium, magnesium, and vitamin C. How do we know we're going to get the vitamins and supplements we love? I take supplements. How do we know we're going to be able to get them? I can't afford to get 3 or 4 or 6 months of the supplements I take. Honestly, I can't. So it's got to be through what we eat. And you can grow potatoes. You can grow them in a 5-gallon thing. They're pretty easy to grow, and they thrive, but they thrive in the ground. You can do them in raised beds as long as it's deep enough raised bed. Containers, grow bags, and even garbage cans people have grown them in. They will give you more calories per square foot, which is really not my problem. I could live off my calories. My joke is I suffer from largesse. All right. So anyway, we got to have a little laughing here. But all those growing conditions, and they're good for the Victory Garden. And then tomatoes. I grow tomatoes now. Last year I grew beautiful Roma tomatoes, and I made sun-dried tomatoes, a gazillion jars of sun-dried tomatoes, which I did eat all winter. I don't know if I'm going to do the same thing again, or if I'm going to go grow tomatoes to make dense soups, because canning soup for me is a way to get through. And you can make tomato soup with potato. You can make a nutrient-dense soup. Just be careful. If you don't know how to can yet, there's some wonderful canning channels. I'd say, what's her name? Red Rose Homestead. I'll put the link in the show notes. She's terrific. She's in her 80s. She's got a great channel. She's been doing this shit a long time. So tomatoes. You like tomatoes, even if tomatoes can be good. Personally, like I said, I am not going to just have tomatoes, because tomatoes, even though they have lycopene, they also have acids. So you have to know for yourself what you like. But just like I said, Victory Garden, not a designer garden, not all this fancy crap this year, in my opinion. Okay. San Marzanos are the ones that I grew, and they were fantastic. They were. I mean, I did have amazing sun-dried tomatoes, but that's a luxury, sun-dried tomatoes. Yes, Red Rose Homestead. Oh, I love her so much. I do. I love that woman. I've learned so much. I go back when I do my sun-dried tomatoes. I watched the same video. She probably watched her sun-dried tomato video 45, 50 times. But, some people are really good resources. I hope to be a resource on my gardening playlist, but I'm not a gardening channel. I'm a environmental channel. I'm a climate channel. I'm a science channel. I'm a lot of different things here. And I really personally, I like a diversity of information on this channel. But you can ferment, you can freeze. Fermenting is amazing. I do that with broccoli, the sprouts, broccoli sprouts. You can do that right in your kitchen. You can do that right in 2 jars in your kitchen and have sprouts. So they're versatile. And then there's beans, which I will grow a lot. I like beans. I like the protein, the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, and they are easy. I love pole beans. I grow tons of them. And even the shelling ones, like black beans, broad beans, fava beans, and pinto beans. Beans are great. And pole beans are great. I do them vertically. Lots of you do. They're fantastic. Then the shelling beans. Because shell beans, you can dry and you can store them. I store them in glass containers in the dark. I keep them, but I have those. You can make rice and beans, lots of things. So you can do all that. Corn. Now I have to tell you the truth. I have never grown corn. I'm not the biggest fan of corn. However, I know a lot of people that grow corn. Love it. So you can do a lot with corn. Because if you're growing on crops for survival and sustenance, you might want to consider growing field corn, which a lot of people around here do. I don't necessarily have to this year because I live in a rural area and I have Amish and everybody's selling at the farmers market. So I'm really, really blessed cosmically that way. And they were out yesterday. People were out, not the Amish yet, but the people were at the farmers market, and I got greens. I was really happy to be able to get greens. I still have onions I grew last year, but corn could be one. I don't think I'm going to personally grow it because of that, because of what I just said. But even if you live in a city and you can afford to get out to a farmer's markets, a lot of places, I know Buffalo has farmer's markets. They come in from the farms to sell at these city farmer's markets. There's availability to do everything you need to do. That's why we can't panic. We just need to be proactive. It's March. We have time. We have time. So that's corn. All right. And then squash. Love growing squash. I grow squash every year. This year, I did not can as much as I always did. I vacuum sealed and froze. And I mean, I just happened to be lucky because the power goes out here a lot. I have a backup battery for the freezer, but it's I love squash. So I always grow acorn. Butternut is my favorite spaghetti. I mean, they're good and they're high in vitamins. They're prolific growers and they will produce a lot of food. And you can store those winter squash. You can just store them. Store them in the thing. I store them on my deck. I leave them on the deck. So you could do that. I grew carrots this year. I never grew carrots either. Debbie always grew carrots. So I would get my carrots. She grows the asparagus too. But I grew carrots this year and mine, they were all kinds of weird looking, but you know what? They were really good. So those are amazing. And I grew beets. I personally like beets. So carrots, they do well in cold storage. Now this is interesting, especially when they're buried in sand. And they can be canned and dehydrated. They can be left out in the garden in more temperate climates and pulled out of the soil whenever you're ready too. And this is another one I grow and I make soup. When cabbage, it's not the calorically dense, it's nutritionally dense. And you can make coleslaw. I've made soups and I've fermented it. I've made carrots. I've made it all. Sauerkraut, kimchi. There's books. And you know what? Go to the library. If you can't afford the books, go to the library. They're not burning those books. So cabbage, wonderful. I love cabbage. And you can store it in the fridge, cold storage. It is on its own. And it does last a long time. I had my cabbage and I had the most beautiful purple ones too this year. And they weren't designer cabbages, but these are things, kale. A lot of people like kale. I don't grow a lot of kale. I have a problem stomaching it. I can't eat it raw, but I grew it and I used it in other things that I canned because it has a lot of nutrients: A, C, K, iron, calcium, folate, magnesium, fiber, and potassium. It's a high yielding plant and you can grow it. I grow it right out on the deck. And you can blanch it and freeze it, which I did. And I dehydrated. So I have the kale. And I made kale chips because I have a dehydrator. Also, I put that in. But that's run on electricity too. You can dehydrate, and you can dehydrate your sun-dried tomatoes outside in a hot climate if it's hot enough. I could do that in my greenhouse because it gets really freaking hot in there. So there are things you can do. You just have to look for where you live and what's possible where you live in your climate. And garlic's healthy. I don't have to grow it because Debbie grows so much, but if you can buy it if you can't grow it, just buy it at a farmer's market. It's high in essential nutrients. Obviously, we all know garlic has properties antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and antimicrobial. And now with the medicine shortages, we're going to need to look at some of those natural remedies. We really are. We just have to realize, though, we have to weigh and balance that. Okay. And herbs. Herbs you could just do, right? Also, you could do herbs and outside. You could do herbs in the house with a little grow light. Some herbs, because you want to have some kind of food, but there's also medicinal herbs you can grow. And I do have a book on that off the top of my head right now. I mean, I grew things. I put it in my broth and my food, these herbs. So rosemary, thyme, chives, oregano, I've grown them all. Basil I grow a lot of. I make pesto. I love pesto. So I have lots of that. But they are must-haves because you can use them for so many things that I don't think that they are just designer crops, because they'll go and at least they make it so, And then she's got this whole thing, culinary and medicinal herbs for your home garden. We're going on an hour and a half, but maybe I will pull this up just so we can look at this. Many of you are gardeners out in here. So let's see. The culinary and medicinal herbs. Let's see what she has, because I didn't look at this. Mint. All right, mint. And let's look at medicinal. Mint is great, actually, for the stomach ache. Upset stomachs. Now, I don't know about reducing fevers and headaches and all that stuff, but I know it's good for upset stomachs. Lemon balm, I have that. I grew that last year, actually. Medicinal. Lemon balm is known to boost mood, calm anxiety, which we're going to definitely need. We need it now. Aid digestion, like an upset stomach. All right, so I will put this link in here. There's a lot of things. We just have to be careful that we are not our own doctors. We can understand our own bodies and we can understand what's needed. But if you're sick, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. I'm growing catnip right now. I'm actually growing catnip I have 7 cats. I keep the door closed. I've got a regular light. I'm growing catnip in my guest room, growing lots of it. It's for my cats, actually, but it has some medicinal uses. But I grow it for the cats. You can make it. There's things. Tea is going to be very important, I think, for us going forward. The different kinds of teas. Parsley is nice. Parsley you can use for a lot of things. And medicinal uses, it has, it says do not use parsley in a lot. No large concentrated quantities if you're pregnant. Hopefully nobody here is. I don't think it's a good time for that for anyone, actually, but that's an opinion. It's an opinion. But there's lots of things. Cilantro, great. Cilantro is good in food, but it also has vitamins like A, C, E, and K. Dill, I grow dill every single year. And it has, again, it's another digestive one. So that's good. And plus it tastes great. I love dill. I do like it. Rosemary. What else does she say about it? Now remember, none of this, you also have to know what you're taking. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Rosemary supposedly helps sore muscles and joint pain, which I actually did not know. Maybe I'll grow a little bit more rosemary just in case I lose my medicine. Thyme is good to cook with. And she says here, sore throats, lots of things. But and lavender, love lavender. It's great. But I use it for things at home. Oregano is great. I use that. Sage. These are all good ideas. But what I want to talk about is being careful and being really careful, because the wellness industry does sell a lot of hokey horse shit. And I have known people that got sick and thought that, their wellness shit would get them better, and it did not. So I really say, please, 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 if you're going to use herbs medicinally, just be careful and look at the medicines that you are taking. Look at your prescriptions, because there's a lot of things that interact with your prescriptions. Very careful if you're using herbs medicinally to look at what you are taking. Our livers are really important, and without a liver, you're done. Okay, so yeah, you have to be very, very careful with that. All right, so I think we're going to look at things you've said. We're almost to an hour and a half, and yes, of course, you have to. You can't just think, okay, I'm going to take an herb and I'm going to be all better. Sorry, to me, that just does not. It doesn't do it. Doesn't do it. No. You got to be really careful. I mean, I know a lot of people are into the wellness industry, but if COVID taught me one thing, it's that there was a lot of bullshit floating around, and a lot of people died because of the buy-in to it. And I'm sorry if you don't like that, I'm saying that, but it is true. All right, guys, let's see here. I had 5. All right, we'll go to Soul Life. We're dangerously low on helium. We have been for years. It's very important. I'd say I'm surprised we still do party balloons, which is stupid. But this is capitalism. It doesn't operate on logic. Very stupid. And the balloons are terrible for the environment. Anybody that, if you go to a wedding, if they're doing balloons and that kind of shit, throw rice for the bird. Throw some more bird seed. I can't stand that. But yes, it's important. And Karen says, bring wired local party line telephone networks, the kind you crank for the electric pulse. All right, I have something to tell you. Verizon is taking the copper up from the ground all over the United States. By 2029, there will be no landlines through Verizon. They want the copper, and landlines are going the way of the PCC car, unfortunately. I can get more information on that. It's something that popped up, and landlines are going bye-bye. So we are in this new world where we won't have these opportunities. If this conflict and these lunatics go nuclear, no amount of prep will help. Yeah, it depends on where you live, of course. They are lunatics. All right, guys, I'm getting a whiskey and cola. All right, yeah. Listen, those of you who partake, go buy your alcohol too before it gets so expensive. When truckers, I don't drink, but when truckers started complaining about price of diesel, the orange turd told them to use gas instead. Truth. Oh, gosh, Susan. Unreal. Unreal. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Wanda says she put her garlic in this year. I used to grow it a good many years ago, but someone kept weed eating it. Well, I'm just so lucky with Debbie because, and the farmers markets. So, okay. There's a channel making low-cost alcohol. Cool. For those of you that want that. I'm not going to begrudge anybody what their drug of choice is that's, legal, as long as you know your limits and you're not destroying your life or your liver. There you go. I have another whole story to tell you about the DEA. I'm not going to do it here, but the DEA now under the Trump administration wants to classify cannabis as an opioid if you are a pain patient. So there's one of those things. Distillers on Amazon are under $100. Hi, Pup. Oh, gosh. There's nothing this man doesn't know. Pup eventually is going to be a guest because he can do a solar installation in your house for $5,000. This guy, I love you, pup. Minnesota. He knows everything. One of the most educated, amazing people from the Climate Crisis Club. Yay that you're here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, let's see. Mushroom broth with seaweed sounds incredibly healthy, but okay, seaweed. Well, we can't obviously can't grow it. But if you live near the ocean, hey, look at those things and have hardware. Basics: mineral spirits, denatured alcohol, tongue oil, stains, paints. I didn't even get to that, but that's household stuff. Look in your basement or wherever you keep your utilities. Make sure you have a screwdrivers, everything you need to fix shit. Because I've learned I have to fix most of my own stuff. Sometimes I'll have somebody come over and help me with the big stuff. Like last year, my friend Scott put in the whole cat rescue area for me because I could not do that, but you really got to learn. And if you don't know, you got to fix your shit, learn how to fix it. It's a food supplement for horses. You know, my neighbor who has beautiful horses right across the street, she probably knows that. I saw them outside this morning. We were having thunderstorms. They were all outside. They have those fencing, the electric fencing, but it's not they must have fallen in some place. Makes the hoofs grow like crazy? Really? Oh man, you got to come on the show. If you want your beautiful face shown, though. You don't have to necessarily. I can always make you anonymous. And you need lye to make soap, and it is in microdoses good for parasites like worms and mice. I use lime, but I use that in the compost in the back, the cat compost. I have compost for cat stuff that does go down, but I use lime to get rid of that, and I don't use that compost for anything. We didn't even talk about composting, where you can compost, how if you live in a small house or whatever, you can get one of those ones that tumbles around. I have one of those. I have a compost outside. Holy shit. There's so much. I could be here for hours talking about all this crap. I didn't even pull up any pictures, but I'm getting ready. Listen, I haven't had the desire to do anything. I haven't had the desire to do anything much, but now I'm finally, after yesterday and doing this show with you, I'm starting to feel like I'm going to get my greenhouse going. I'm going to get my stuff in order because, quite frankly, all of these events, I do a YouTube channel and I started a political channel, and it's overwhelming. So we have to have ways to get out of ourselves. And I will be bringing Dr. Carolyn Baker back on, who is a master at this. I will be bringing her back on for a show. People asking me to bring her on. Was a psychotherapist. She is really good. She's an accomplished author. I've brought her on many times, but we need her back. Who wrote this? Okay. The erroneous cannabis opioid federal comparison will make many pain patients take up arms. Honey, a lot of us are there. You know, you don't have to say that, but I don't know, what are we supposed to do? We can't take up arms and fight at your pain management. I mean, it's sickening. We just have to look at what's going on with the DEA and write letters or do whatever you can to protest. I know the doctors aren't happy about it. They're not happy about it at all. Nope. All right, what else, guys? Lye is made from soaked firewood ash. Native soap is made by mixing animal fat with the lye. Grandma was really good at making it, environmentally friendly. Very cool. I just love this. You know, this is like, it's great. Does Jennifer have? Jennifer is retired. Not from her job. She's retired right now. She will not be doing shows for a while. And she had extreme burnout, and I miss her terribly. We did shows for years. I miss her. I talked to her, but she is still working in her career, and she can't, it's a lot. Maybe record yourself doing that. Debbie and I have talked about it. I have my tripod, and we've talked about doing some recordings of what we're doing out in our gardens, because I have a gardening playlist. I mean, it was called It used to be called the disabled able gardener, and then I called it the Anthropocene gardener, but I've never been consistent at doing it. That's my problem. Because of my physical problems, it's hard for me to be consistent on everything. Oh, yeah, I will. I absolutely will because I've been looking at it. It looks beautiful. It overwintered beautifully because I prepped it perfectly. I didn't let it get overgrown and then close it up. It looks beautiful. I have a gigantic garbage can full of mushroom compost that I got last year that I'm going to put over. I want to build up the beds a bit, and I do have a helper, Brandon, that comes over and helps me. I have to pay for him, but he's wonderful, and thankfully I have him. Yep. And you love the wildlife as well. You know I like those. Yeah, I do like to do those. So we're going to be together. And even if that political channel goes nowhere, this is my channel. You are my people. My effort is much better spent here with you than on the political one, because I find the political one is extremely stressful. Whereas, yes, I'm already collapse accepted. I'm already aware. I already feel certain things. I can handle things. I've been doing this environmental reporting for 10 years. The news is horrible. However, it's the local things. It's the things every day. And I feel that on the political channel, I find myself getting a lot more angry. I mean, I went through anger fits today. Congress should be legally required to consult and speculate in any field they are regulating. Well, that's what they were supposed to do. But you see, they put cronies in charge. They put a guy named Kolodny, Physicians for Responsible Prescribing, and he is a shill for the rehab industry. And at one time, I was really into chronic pain patient rights. That's in fact, the political channel I have used to be a chronic pain patient channel years and years ago, because that's how long I've been in pain, years and years, and screwed every which way possible because chronic pain patients are on the bottom of the rung. You know, they want to call us drug seekers. Well, not me so much because I'm not, and I'm older. It's not like I haven't had to prove myself. Talk to effing SCOTUS who put a stop to the experts doing, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll have to look for it. I can't remember the name of the case, but it was in the news the last 2 years. Hello, Dan. Any rotting brassica smells really bad. Yeah, please. I don't even want to imagine that smell. They are. Oh my gosh. You kept beehives in a $300 Harbor Freight greenhouse. Helps them survive Minnesota winters. Again, there's so much we can do. And we can do it on the cheap. I have no choice. And I have no choice. So I don't know, maybe I change my my playlist to gardening on the cheap, gardening for broke old ladies. Oh gosh. Now I'm like getting silly, right? But hey, I garden, I prep, I do all that stuff. I don't hide the fact that I am a weapons owner legally, because I went through the whole process in New York State. I happen to like the SAFE Act. I don't hide any of it. I'm a rural person. And I have a little homestead here, and I don't feel ashamed of myself. I'm not a Second Amendment nut or an NRA crank or any of that. Hey, I'm just American. I'm an American, but I don't hide it. Anybody wants to not like me because of that, I'm sorry. My ex-husband was a hunter, and he taught me everything. It is what it is. I learned. All right, beehives generate heat. Bees actually use heat to fight those monster hornets. It's neat. I get them. I have outbuildings. Oh my gosh, I get those wasps every year. Hello, sweetheart. It's great to see you here, Bella. It's so great to see all of you. Originally got bees for pollination. 10 years later, started harvesting honey in the spring. Oh, and now in the Northeast, like Maine and New Hampshire, now it's time they're going to start tapping the maple trees. They do that here too. So that's, yeah, you call them merkins. I love you guys. I love you guys. I'm only live on YouTube today. I didn't go anywhere else, just YouTube. I'm happy. And hi, one thing that separates liberals from leftists is being pro 2A. Yeah, well, it doesn't bother me. And I'm not going to tell you the shit I have. But I am who I am. Accept me for who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am. And I was taught the right way, you know? And my ex-husband, maybe that had problems, but he respected what he hunted. He was good at it. He was a bow hunter, you know. Hey, and we lived off the land. We had a good thing. It's just that he had a problem with being a covert narcissist, abusive asshole. Shit happens. I'm sure there's women in this audience that understand that, and men, because it goes both ways. Yeah. Aw. Well, what are we going to do? I'm not ashamed to be human. I was born human. I mean, I'm not a dog, although I've been called one in my life. All right, I'm getting silly. I'm going to a party this afternoon. It's a long show. Oh, you did? Susan went sap boiling yesterday. Great. All right, Susan. She's been here. Yep. She took care of me in August when I had surgery. Beautiful people. All right, guys, I gotta go and get ready. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for just everything. I love you. And I don't know what I'm doing this week. I'll tell you my schedule. This week is a tough one because I'm supposed to be doing activism type shit around here. There's things going on locally. I'm a local person that does activist activities. And Tuesday night when I was doing show on Political Coffee House, I'm going to be doing something here with people here. So we'll see. Maybe I'll start doing shows Wednesday nights. I liked Wednesday, but we're going to be doing Left Past 10. And my daughter is going to be our guest on Left Past 10 with me and Andrea and my daughter Dawn, because she's going to talk about her Buffalo Starving Artist series and all of the things that she's doing that are maybe not environmental, but really creative and interesting. So for the first time, she's going to be a guest on our show Wednesday, April 1st. All right? So peace out, guys. We can only live one day at a time and live to the best of our abilities. Be nice to each other, care about each other, and try not to hate, even though we want to hate Donald Trump. Oh, I didn't do a flush. Wait, we got to do a flush. Shit. How did I forget that? All right. I'll tell you what. I'm going to pick the flush. And I'm going to flush this whole goddamn war. Okay, we flushed the war. Now we're leaving. All right, I can't go without the Environmental Coffee House flush of the day. How could I forget that? All right, peace out, guys. Bye.